MamaMax was YouTube's resident PDF hunter until he had destroyed all of his credibility, but before we can get to that, we need to get caught up on who Max is. The furthest back we can see on his channel is his Life Sucks series that he started back in 2016. In these videos, Max would talk about a variety of topics, everything from depression and anxiety to terrorism. They were rant-style videos where he'd talk about the topic for a while, but afterwards, Max would talk to the audience, catching them up on how his life was going at the time, complaining about his dad frequently. Max would end his Life Sucks series after a little more than a year and would move on to making, well, hentai reviews with a friend of his. Now, these videos obviously don't exist on YouTube anymore, and the series didn't last long, but it's still worth noting. Afterwards, he would make videos that were about video games that had big impact on the gaming community as a whole. He would make videos about Dead Space, Halo, and Skyrim, where he collaborated with some bigger YouTubers like Elvis the Alien and Internet Historian, and these videos are actually pretty good, but soon after, Max would make the videos that he got popular for making. He would go on to making a video about a game called Kanye Quest 3030, and in this video he would talk about how he believed it to be linked to a cult by the name of Ascensionism. In the game, there was a point where it asks you a question. If you answer with Ascend, you'll be teleported to another room where you'll have to answer a series of questions. If you made it through there, you'd be asked to give your personal information like your name and address, claiming that they'd be getting in contact with you. However, the game had no internet connectability and couldn't actually transmit out your information. This wouldn't stop Max from claiming the video game was connected to the cult and spending the rest of the video talking about Ascensionism, and that's really all he talks about for the rest of that video, so we're just gonna move on. In his next video, he'll be talking about Sad Satan, a game that made its way around the spookier side of the YouTube gaming community, and it was rumored to contain images of CP and abuse. Now, the version that made its way around YouTube, released by Obscure Horror Corner, didn't have any of that in it, but there has been a version of the game that does contain said material. Obscure Horror Corner claims he found the game on the dark web, and when he released the link for the game, he shared a different link to avoid sharing the explicit material. Max would go on to claim that Obscure Horror Corner was the same person who made the explicit version of the game, but doesn't have any evidence of such other than Obscure Horror Corner and Scare Bear, a man who was caught with CP on his phone with no connection to Sad Satan, both stopped posting at around the same time, and that they both had starkly similar versions of the game. If only Max could just stick to the stuff he has evidence for in this video, it could have been so good. His coverage of the game and how it came to be found was fairly accurate, but going on to say Obscure Horror Corner was a predator without anything other than circumstantial evidence showing that he went missing around the same time Scare Bear was arrested. But honestly, he could have just wanted to step away from the internet because he was constantly getting messaged about the game, and I can't 100% believe that he was a predator without being able to prove his identity. In the next video, Max talks about the story of Kamikuishiki Village, a resource manager game about the Aum Shinrikyo sarin gas attacks. Max mentions that many believe the game to be a blueprint for the attack passed around by the cult. However, Max reveals that the game was actually made by Takashi Kanai and Koichi Karasawa, a couple high school friends of Yoshihisa Kowloon Kurosawa, or the founder of Happy Soft and creator of the infamous Hong Kong 97. So, Max determines the game was actually made to be
not as a blueprint for casters, not as a piece to recruit members, and not as a fan-made project worshipping the cult. It was a meme. Their only purpose, to make fun of Aum Shinrikyo, Takeshi Kanai, Koichi Kanazawa, and even Kowloon Kurosawa, are trolls. Some of the very first in internet history
The rest of the video was more of an excuse to talk about Shinrikyo, and there's really nothing for me to fault here, as it's a lot of accurate records of what the cult believes. He does, however, say that by talking about the cult, he's made himself a target of them. Max ends the video soon after, so we're gonna move on to the next one. Max's next video was about Roly Poly no Nanakronoki Yoki, a game Max claims to have been sent by.
Last month, someone sent me a game that she says killed her child. A mother of a 5-year-old boy downloaded a toddler's edutainment game in the hopes that it would keep him busy while she was cooking dinner. He died the next day from an intracerebral brain hemorrhage.
Max goes on to explain the gameplay in the best way you can with words, but here's some footage of it. If that looks familiar at all, it probably should, because the game was made by Osamu Sato, or the creator of LSD Dream Emulator. Max would correctly point out that the worst this game could cause is headaches, but definitely not killing a child. But he would go on to insist that the game was sent to him by a member of Aleph, or what's currently believed to be a modern branch of Shinrikyo. Max would claim that while researching the game, someone would get a hold of him that he believes to be a part of Aleph and got him to click a link that gave Max their IP address, and it matched the supposed mother that initially got a hold of him about the game. Max would claim that he was sent the game as a way to get him isolated in their communities and discords to get to him. But Max, how would them being in a Discord server with you be enough to get any information you wouldn't willingly give out anyways? How would they get to you? If you just ignore them, they can't do shit to you from Japan. Anyways, that's it for that video, so go check out the fever dream that is Roly Poly no Nanakronoki Yoki and LSD Dream Emulator while you're at it. Now, here's where Max's contents would take its final change. Max would begin covering topics like CP and abuse against children. He would begin this by making a video about a YouTube channel called Cartoon Incorporated. He opens the video talking about Elsagate and the third adpocalypse, then claims to have found a video titled Frozen 3 on Cartoon Incorporated, and the channel is full of videos titled after children's movies and sequels that just don't exist. When he watched Frozen 3, it showed, well, don't really know how to describe it, so here. Max would claim that the comments were full of fake child celebrity accounts trying to get in contact with children. He would make a fake account where he posed as a 13-year-old girl to reply to these fake accounts and got in contact with them. He then shows a clip of one of the calls he had with one of these fake accounts where the guy on the other end was clearly an older man talking to what he believed was a child in a way you should never talk to a kid. Max claims to have sent the information of everyone who replied to the authorities. He then claims that Cartoon Incorporated was creating the perfect breeding ground for a CSAM ring of people sending those images. Max would then claim that through the videos there's subliminal messages that would appear to be runes in the videos, but he can't identify them. He says that the predators in the comments have Instagram accounts attached to their profiles, so Max starts sending them messages to catfish them into incriminating themselves and getting them to download a Trojan that gives him all of their information. information. Then he sends it to the authorities. Max claims that he did this to multiple people, got their accounts taken down, and claims that there were 3 hits. Max would then move on to talking about ElsaGate and the conspiracy theory that it was a front for human trafficking. He would bring up a Reddit post that would claim the user believed that conspiracy and talked about the comments on the videos being gibberish and having short, eerily similar videos on their accounts. But Max would dismantle that argument, saying these videos are just home videos posted by parents, and the comments were the result of children mashing the screen when an iPad is set in front of them. Max says that while there are a lot of suspicious comments on the ElsaGate videos, there's no proof of a worldwide conspiracy to harm children. He would also go on to defend YouTube, saying that they can't possibly be expected to be able to pull everything down that could harm minors purely because of how much content is uploaded every day, and that the only way to ensure that children are safe is the parents need to step in and help educate their kids on how to stay safe. Max would then claim that he talked about ElsaGate because he believed the runes that were shown in Cartoon Incorporated's videos are connected to
Are these tableaus? I originally hypothesized that these tracings might have been linked to an ARG, but based on what I now know from this channel, it might be the work of an ElsaGate cult.
Max claims he got Cartoon Incorporated taken down, but didn't get to archive much of their channel, and all that they have left are the runes he found in their videos, and asks if anyone recognizes them to get a hold of him. He says he's thankful YouTube took down the channel and hopes that they will help the authorities to bring them to justice. And that's the end of that one, so let's move on to the next one about a kids dating site. In this one, Max talks about kidschat.net, a website that lets kids use what's essentially a dating site. On that site, Max would claim to have made an account saying he was a minor, and within minutes he got messages asking for his ASL, or age, sex, and location. He shows some of the chat logs he got from people over 18, and they turn, let's say, inappropriate almost immediately, showing what the average user on this site's intentions are. These clips also show that they're trying to get kids to apps where they can hide their identities easier so they can keep chatting, but Max gets them to move to Discord instead. There, the people he's talking to try to set up meetings or get him to send nudes of what they believe is a 13-year-old girl. Max points out that the website claims to send the information of predators to the authorities, but when asked if they've gotten anyone arrested, they say they can't disclose any information on that. He claims to give the website the benefit of the doubt, so he tries to put in a report on an account that he found, and it gives him an email subject and message box. He fills it out, and they reply to him by allegedly saying that they won't do anything without screenshots of the inappropriate communications. Max points out that with how it's worded, it seems like the website has gotten reports before and haven't done anything about it because the children don't know how to attach a screenshot to the report. Max also points out that there's no information on the report page on what would be needed for it to go through, so people are reporting and getting ignored. Max claims that he sent the proper reports with the evidence, and instead of the predators getting banned, Max would be the one to get banned, so he decides to take matters into his own hands. He goes on to show screenshots of messages along with the predators' faces and claims to have reported them all to the authorities. Max would then claim that he believes that the website is made by predators for predators, and points out that when asked why they don't take the website down if it's full of predators, and they reply by saying that they might as well be the hub for it if they have to be online. And that's incredibly disgusting if true. Predators shouldn't be welcome anywhere they could come in contact with children, and the site should be shut down if that's their stance. Max claims to have reported the website to the FBI and is trying to get the site pulled off the internet, and that ends that video. The next video would be the first of Max's many campaigns against YouTube. Answer Us YouTube opens with audio clips of people talking about their experiences as a victim of CSA. The video then cuts to
protect these people, and you silence us.
Max talks about how 3 months prior he had exposed a PDF ring and that he took it upon himself to hunt them down and expose them. He then claims that he was so close to bringing them down, but YouTube pulled down his video. Max claims that YouTube is trying to protect predators and talks about how disgusted he is that YouTube is protecting them. He says that the criminals are being treated better than the creators and people trying to bring down the worst of the worst. Max then claims after his video was put out, Google pulled down the website we have previously talked about, so clearly his video had merit and should be reinstated. Max then asks for his fans to tweet at YouTube and their favorite creators hashtag AnswerUsPedo2 to get an answer from YouTube, and the video ends. And obviously this would never work. YouTube won't answer you if all you're going to do is call them PDFs and throw a tantrum about your video being taken down. So let's move on to the next one. Max opens his next video with a skit about YouTube being a safe space for PDFs, then shows a Hotline Miami inspired edit and reveals he will be talking about MyLOL. MyLOL is yet another children's dating site, as Max describes it, where older men are messaging young teens to receive exploitative images. Max shows some reviews for the site that are parents trying to warn people that it isn't a safe space for children. Max then shows himself downloading the app and creating an account where he appears to be a minor. He would say that as soon as you log in, the app asks for not only your name and age, but also your address. He says once your account is made, there's a 12-hour moderation on it, but if you pass the 12 hours without being flagged, you can do and say whatever you want without consequences. And if you get banned, you can immediately make a new account with the same email address. Max claims that as soon as you look at someone's account, you can immediately message them and send images. Max will reveal that he has a couple of his friends helping him catfish men on MyLOL. One for pictures and one for the calls, and yes, both are above 18 years old. Max would then show a call where a guy opened it by touching himself. They would get to his personal information and leave the call reporting him to the authorities. He would show up on the app again and reach out to the fake account again, immediately trying to solicit images, so Max alerted his workplace. He then shows another account he found. The predator would immediately message asking to move to another platform where they can video call. While he moved them to another platform, no message came until the next day on MyLOL, where he would message again saying he forgot to log into the Discord, then messages back there. Max would get him to give his information, and he reports the information to the authorities. He then moves on to the last one he got for the video. He gets this guy's information and face and realizes he only lives about 10 minutes away from Max. And Max then claims to buy a gun for self-defense. He would say that he tried to set up a meeting with the predator, but the predator never shows up and removes Max from MyLOL. Max reports him to the authorities, but claims they did nothing about it and goes on to tell survivors that they're getting ignored to keep pressing for help to be heard. Max then claims to have caught over 20 predators and shows their pictures, but shows no evidence of any of them, so we can't be 100% sure. He then ends the video, so let's move on to the next one. Max's next video is on a slightly different subject. Max opens the video by talking about how he got Cartoon Incorporated taken down and claiming that MyLOL and Kids Chat are on the verge of being taken down. He then says that the predators in the videos have all been arrested, or implies that they've been unalived. Keep this in mind, you'll need it a little bit later. Max will talk about his previous style videos and brings up his friend that he used to make the hentai reviews with, and brings up how he got a pet pug who was in and out of the vet due to the abuse that he had endured by a puppy mill that he came from before eventually passing on. Max used this as a way to introduce this video's topic, animal abuse, and the wave of videos that were getting posted a few years ago of animals being unalived on YouTube. Max claims that what made him aware of this issue was a bunch of children sending him a video of someone unaliving an animal that had been posted to Instagram and TikTok. Max claims that these videos are being posted by multiple accounts with some variation of the name C1 Rink, and that they're actually on almost all of the big social media sites sharing these videos. Max will claim that all of these accounts are more than likely an underground ring of animal abusers and traffickers, but shows zero proof for it. He would then point out that most of the accounts trying to bring attention to the issue are from younger kids, comparing them to
It's like a little lamplight of young investigators trying to get the word out and bring justice for the abused animals.
Max would then run down a timeline of events that have led up to here. He would then claim that nobody knows for sure who the original C1 rank is anymore at this point, but mentions that there are a few subjects. The first two Max claims are just random TikTok accounts he doesn't give the name for and doesn't show their faces since they're out of our jurisdiction. But the third one he does show a face to for wanting to be a part of this for attention. Max claims that the police have stopped looking into reports of this because there have been so many false reports from people who claim to know who C1 Rank is. Max then claims to have had YouTuber Nexpo film a video pretending to be one of these zoo sadists so he could post it on a new account named C2 Rank. He would put an email in the description and tried to bait the abusers into asking for the video so he could get them to download a file that would give him their information to send to the authorities. But before Max could use the file on anyone, he was contacted by a hacker who claimed that C1 Rank was never a real person, but a hacker group who created the C1 Rank account so they could take it down and get good press. Max claims that while the C1 Rank accounts might have been fake, there was still a video made of a puppy being unalived and he needs to find them. Max says he still doesn't know who made the video, so he is asking for help from the audience. He sets out some rules like you must be 18, remain anonymous, and to not harass the targets so they can be sent to jail. He ends the video shortly after, so I guess we're moving on to the next one. Max's next video was one that was taken down. This video, Max talks about a game like Second Life called IMVU and the predators on the game. Max would claim that an account by the name KC157434 had unalived herself because she was groomed and abused through the game, and that there are countless others that this has happened to on the game. Max would then take a moment to talk about the previous video, saying the puppy abuser has been identified and reported, but the police have done nothing and that they'll be taken care of soon. Max then refocuses and goes back to IMVU and goes over how IMVU came to be developed, which isn't all that important to the story, so we're just going to skip over it. Max will go on to say he can't blame IMVU for predators being in the game, but the predators are there and in contact with minors. He would make an account saying that he was a 14-year-old girl so he could catfish the predators in the game. He would get somebody quickly who would invite Max to his in-game house and immediately start talking about inappropriate topics with what they believe to be a minor. He would ask Max to date him, saying that they have to keep it a secret since he believes Max is 14 and he's 24. Max would go on to remain in this relationship for months to get his personal information, which Max claims his name is Pablo Sunny. He would then claim to confirm with Pablo that he was 100% fine exploiting a minor in the way he was. Max claims that he couldn't get his face until he had sent Pablo a picture of his ass, and that everything was going well until he publicized their relationship on Max's account, which caused Pablo Sunny to allegedly get really mad. Max took that as someone on his friends list must have been one of his IRL friends and started going through his friends list and found that he was actually exploiting all the kids in his friends list. Max finds Casey on Pablo Sunny's friends list and concludes that she had to be one of the first that he exploited. Max would claim that Casey only had Pablo Sunny on her friends list and that he was able to reverse image her Naruto profile picture to find a YouTube with the video titled "This is where you essayed and unalived me." Max would claim that he can't confirm that it was about Pablo Sunny, but he would send this and Pablo Sunny's information to the authorities, but nothing has been done yet.
I'm not going to make any claims because I have no idea what this is, if it's somehow tied to our guy or not, or whether it has anything to do with IMVU. I do not know for certain and will not say, even if the answer is unmistakable. As usual, I send what I have found to the authorities, but predictably, as the many months have passed during the making of this video, they still haven't reached back out to me for additional information, and fucking nothing has been done yet. All except for the termination of her channel and IMVU account. Gee, thanks, law enforcement.
And yeah, of course nothing has been done yet because there's no proof for what Max is claiming there, other than circumstantial evidence that we can't prove to be linked. Max would then show that his account was banned from IMVU and Pablo Sonny won't get in contact with him anymore. He would claim that while IMVU has the means to take him to court and sue him for his video, he won't back down. He then states that anyone who tries to stop him is either a child who doesn't know any better or a PDF, and would show a couple recorded accounts from users who were groomed and exploited by IMVU users. Through these accounts, they claim that children need to be taken off the game and it needs better moderation. Max would claim that while he definitely deserved to be banned, none of the accounts he reported have been banned and have been allowed to continue to harm children. Max then shows a skit of him beating a PDF to unalived and saying that he's going to
Goodbye, Pablo Sonny. I am going to
Report you to the police.
until the entirety of what remains of your identity
Is as a rehabilitated individual.
Max would then make a new IMVU account under the name Pablo Sonny Exploited Me and found that he was still active getting a hold of minors. He would then add all of Pablo Sonny's IMVU friends and start telling them what he's been doing, but wasn't able to get his real name from any of them. Max would finally get in contact with Pablo Sonny, and Pablo tries to defuse the situation by saying he's not trying to hurt anyone and is going to be leaving IMVU. In the call, Max's friend, who's pretending to be Max, tries to get Pablo Sonny's Instagram, but he tells her no because if this ever came out, he'd
I'm sorry. You have to understand from my perspective. You have to understand from my perspective. You realize I would go to jail? Like I would go to jail for like 10 years.
They come to agreement that if Max deletes the pictures he sent, then Pablo Sonny would give his Instagram. So Max makes a fake video of him deleting the pictures, and Pablo blocks Max right after getting it. So he shows Pablo Sonny's face in the video and ends the video. So now we're going to be moving on to the next one. Max's next video opens with Nexpo going over the Pablo Sonny video being taken down by YouTube. He brings up that the video was edited and cut up to be okay with TOS, but what got the video taken down was a character from IMVU's ass not being censored. Max then talks about his video being taken down and saying it seems like YouTube is protecting the PDFs and shows a bunch of clips sent to him by other YouTubers talking about darker content being taken down.
YouTube messes with me all the time.
If there's something that the internet has shown us time and time again in regards to independent investigations, it's that the average person can notice something that an investigator might miss the first or second time.
It honestly feels like YouTube is trying to protect these up people, and that's not okay.
Personally, I don't think YouTube ever cared about any of us.
90% of the issues with YouTube could be resolved if Google just hired a team of real people to look over and see what's actually being done than what's just being reported.
You know, YouTube was actually a place for people to create back in the day.
Every single day we can see exploitative content trending on YouTube.
It feels like YouTube is constantly punishing the wrong people on its platform.
YouTube likes to put on this front that they care about their creators, when anybody who's worked in the platform knows it's complete bullshit.
The overall problem with YouTube is that it cares more for its public appearance than it does for those who actually make the platform work.
And the problem that we have on YouTube is even if you follow all the rules and all the guidelines and you blur every single thing imaginable, you're still potentially facing some level of a privacy guideline strike.
So there's a lot of censoring that I have to do on my own channel.
YouTube sometimes removes content that exposes pedophiles and animal abusers.
Investigations into very dark territory.
Why are they giving all this leeway to the big corporations?
Whose side are you on, YouTube?
YouTube taking down this kind of content reminds me of what a lot of people refer to as toxic positivity.
Care so much is that it keeps moving the goalposts of what it wants on the site and what's acceptable.
But at the end of the day, when people are being exploited, I think there needs to be a point where creators exist, and I think we do a pretty good job in that regard.
If we weren't able to investigate things like Chris Hansen, Onision, EDP, a lot of the very positive impacts would just be void.
In theory, this seems like a good idea, but in practice, this allows some bad actors to silence criticism.
It pains me to say YouTube has garnered a reputation for leaving their own creators in the dark.
YouTube has slowly been more restrictive in terms of content creators, trying to tell stories of bad actors within communities.
As time goes on, Team YouTube ceases to surprise with their pompous, unapologetic, hypocritical attitude.
After Max calls out a few bigger YouTubers and YouTube employees to try and bait them into making a video in support of him, Max then claims he's willing to start shit with every creator in order to get justice for the victims in his videos and starts the hashtag #PickAsideYouTube to...
And tonight, YouTube will choose. Let die the pedophiles they love, or suffer the little children. And by the end of the night, I want Twitter to be a shitstorm.
And that's where he ends the video, and the next one is a bit of a curveball. Max's next video is Max responding to allegations made against him by his ex-girlfriends. Max claims that they are stalking him now and looking for a chance to take him down, saying he'll work through them one at a time. Now, I'm not going to break down all of the accusations. If you want to see it all, then you can go to Max's channel. But throughout the video, Max tries to dismantle all the arguments levied against him. However, something we do have to talk about is the allegations Max makes in the video. Max would claim that Magnetar, one of the ex-girlfriend's boyfriends, was a PDF. Max gives no evidence for this outside of a testimony from his sister saying that he would sneak into the high school in order to have lunch with freshmen. Max threw out an allegation that someone was a PDF with no evidence because he platformed his exes to tell their stories. That is beyond irresponsible and malicious. I can understand he was angry, but there's some things you don't do without evidence. Unfortunately, everyone took Max's side on this, believing him without any proof, and many have apologized to Magnetar at this point. This should have been a point where everyone was critical about his response, but since it was just testimony from his exes, Max was given the benefit of the doubt. So we're going to move on to the next video, and I swear we're getting close to the big incident, just a few more videos for full context. Max's next video is about a predator he's found on TikTok and identifies him as Wayne H. Barnett. Max claims that this video is to document Wayne's actions and isn't meant to invalidate what's in the video. Max then shows a skit of him pretending to be a reaction streamer making fun of the accounts that aren't covering the topics he brings. He goes on to talk about how they got his IMVU video reinstated, but says he doesn't support the harassment of other creators who are criticizing how Max went about his campaign. He then spends some time talking about Tommy C, referring to him by his number of subscribers.
And that's not me calling you a pedophile, number 46853. That's me calling you stupid.
Max will go on to claim that Tommy was defending PDFs because of a joke posted to Twitter by his friend that Tommy joked about.
What I did not foresee, however, was when you accidentally aligned with actual pedophiles along the way.
This is the most impressive tweet on this so far. And the only guy with balls, if you ask me. And Vito's got the balls to crack this joke. I pick pedophiles. I pick pedophiles.
Well, because you gave me a choice.
Max will go on to continue talking about how he feels what he makes is more important than what any of the other creators who are covering drama make. Once he was done, Max would show yet another skit and edit based off Hotline Miami as a way to transition to the actual topic. Max would go on to bring up that they found Pablo Sonny and he was a musician by the name of Ham's son. He claims that right after his IMVU video came out, he started getting messages about his identity and that he had taken down his accounts everywhere because of the unaliving threats he was getting, but Max was able to get archives of the videos. Max would get in contact with them and he claims to not be Pablo Sonny, then claims that he was getting therapy for the situation, essentially confirming that he was Pablo Sonny. Max would claim to get him to agree to send a video admitting to being Pablo Sonny, but he would never end up sending it. So Max went on to send his video about Pablo to his friends, family, and anyone else on his friends list on Instagram. This caused more people to come out against him, and he was exiled from all his communities, fired from his job, dumped by his girlfriend, and was last seen fleeing to Mexico. Max claims that he believes Pablo Sonny was trying to get to the Philippines, where he has family, then moves on with the video. Max would say that he had found Wayne through IMVU and is finally able to make a video about him. He claims Wayne was hanging out in IMVU chat rooms and invited Max, who he believed to be a 14-year-old girl, to a private room for more explicit conversations. Max would then move him to Discord and the conversations would turn inappropriate. Max would claim that Wayne has 20 recent victims, most of which he didn't get from IMVU but TikTok. He would say that because TikTok is so big, it's going to naturally attract PDFs, and claims to understand that TikTok can't possibly get to all of them. Max will go on to say that Wayne was able to do all of what he's about to talk about after an arrest in 2019. He then shows yet another Hotline Miami inspired edit and skit before continuing the story. And Max, you really need to chill out with this shit. I get it, you have a specific style you're going for, but these videos are only serving to distract from any possible point you're trying to make. If you're going to be talking about something this serious, you need to take it just as seriously. Max would then show records of Wayne's arrest and shows that he was arrested for sending a 12-year-old explicit pictures. Wayne would confess to what he did, but he was never convicted or put in jail for what he did, so he was able to continue, but on TikTok now. Max would then show a clip of Wayne talking to the decoy, asking her very inappropriate questions and talking about what he wants to do to her. Then Max shows yet another Hotline Miami inspired edit and skit, and honestly, I'm really getting tired of this. I can understand like one at the beginning of the video as an introduction, but he's just peppering them throughout the video. Max would claim that he was sent out Wayne's information to the authorities, but nothing has been done, and then ends the video with a picture of Wayne and the sentence, "You know what to do," over his face. And that ends that one, so let's move on. And now we finally get to the reason this video is being made. And again, thanks to 1952 Zynaps for the re-uploads, because all of this situation has been scrubbed from Max's channel. Max changed his channel name to God Cult and upload Brainwash Your Favorite Creators, where he first asks a set of questions.
If God appeared before you and told you to sacrifice a child, would you do it? On an exoplanet far away, two extraterrestrial factions of the same primitive species are at war with each other. They are both guilty for spilling the blood of children. Based on the pattern among this species, who will win the war? If you were being brainwashed, do you think you could tell?
Max would then introduce to the audience Spencer, a girl from Texas who got lured to join a dangerous vampire sex cult. Max would say that it was run by a man who claims to be a werewolf god who is also a child predator. He then claims that it's been 7 years since this happened and he's gone in contact with the victims and they shared their stories. Max then shows a video of who he claims to be the cult leader and gives out his name, Camden Gerard Davis, and says,
"Leviathans are coming for you."
Max then goes on to explain God Cult stands for Guard Our Defendants, and asks for the audience to share Spencer's story with a list of YouTubers. Everyone from PewDiePie to Anthony Fantano to even fucking Joe Rogan. Max, what are any of these people going to do to be able to help you bring down this cult? They're just a bunch of influencers. They have no power in the case of getting this cult leader arrested. Spencer would then be in the video to give out Camden's mom's name and claiming that he had lured her across state lines to live with him in his mom's house without her knowledge. She would claim Camden essayed her, mentally abused her, beat her, and tried to kill her. Max then claims that Spencer was pursuing legal action against Camden and the police for not helping. He ends the video, and I guess that's where we're moving on to the next one. The next video was a almost 5-hour long podcast on Spencer's channel where they would levy the accusations against Camden, and I had to find a re-upload of it, so thank you, commentary archivist, for the re-upload. A lot of the podcast is just repeating what Spencer claims at the very beginning of the podcast, so I'll just wrap it up as quickly as I can. So, Real quick, let's go over what Spencer claims the cult to be, that being a werewolf and vampire cult. They would claim that the cult was essentially biblical fan fiction with elements of the show Supernatural mixed in. Spencer would say that at 16, they would run away from home to go live with Camden. On their trip to get to him, Spencer would claim to have been essayed by someone who claimed to be willing to help them get to Camden before abandoning them at a bus station. They would end up getting help from someone else who said Spencer reminded him of his daughter. He would actually help them get to Camden. Once Spencer made it to Camden, he would allegedly initiate sex and get her pregnant. Once he would discover that Spencer was pregnant, Camden would allegedly make them take vitamin C and cinnamon while punching their stomach.
That was among one of the first times that Camden forced me to induce a miscarriage, via shit ton of cinnamon, vitamin C, and him beating me in the stomach.
They would then claim that over the 4 months that Spencer was with Camden, they got pregnant 3 times and was beaten into miscarriages every time. Spencer would talk about how they were brought into the cult, that being by one of their friends from school in Texas. They would claim that their friend Carrie was in the cult and brought in Spencer. Then, from being put in contact with Camden, they were manipulated into believing everything Camden was preaching. When Spencer would ask for evidence that Camden was a werewolf, he would send a video that was edited and looked like he had fangs. This would be enough for Spencer to believe him and end up running away to be with him. Spencer would claim that when they ran away to be with Camden, they were told that they would be in a relationship, which at first they were, but then would eventually break up and Camden would start pairing up the members of the cult to be in a relationship. While joining the cult, Spencer was encouraged to use anonymous messaging apps like Kik to lure more people into the cult. Once they were paired up, they would be put in charge of their own packs. Spencer would describe their method of luring people in would be by making posts about joining a family on social media and moving them to Kik. They would talk about a point where they would claim to lure a 13-year-old girl into the cult and that Camden would essay her after Spencer left the cult.
Did you ever recruit?
Yes.
What was the operation like? Did he tell y'all, like, go to these places and...
So my particular recruitment style that he also encouraged others to do it this way too, was to go on Whisper and post about, oh hey, if you want to join a family dynamic and be a part of a pack, hit me up on Kik, you know, or like DM me and then we'd give them the Kik. So there was one time he did have me lure a girl like physically. Like we got an Uber and went and picked this girl up from like 30 minutes away from us and she was like 13 or 14 and he kept trying to convince me to convince her to have sex with him and I was like, no. Thankfully her parents got her the next day, so, but then me and Kayla are pretty sure that he went over there and he her after I was with my foster parents because we both had we all had the same Uber account because it was Kayla's parents card, I think, and we saw the destination and it was that apartment complex where he and I picked up that girl, and like me and Kayla like kept like canceling the ride, kept trying to cancel it, and then he like called us screaming at us, and then later like about 45 minutes to an hour and a half later I get a text from that girl's boyfriend saying that Camden had her and bit her so hard that she was bleeding and everything. Like,
now Spencer, not trying to tell you what you can and can't post, but maybe, just maybe, don't admit to literal felonies while trying to tell your story of being in a cult and trying to bring down this cult leader. Spencer would claim that Camden would come to her claiming that Leviathans are coming in order to get Spencer to leave his house, but also told them to not go back to Texas. So they would end up getting put with a foster family, then a group home before making it back to Texas. After making it back home, Spencer would find out that Camden had essayed a member of the cult named Kayla in a church parking lot. That would be what caused Spencer to leave the cult and start making posts saying that it is a cult in order to keep other people from joining. Once Camden would get word of this, he would have members start to threaten Spencer into silence by threatening their lives and their families' lives. Spencer would claim to have reported the cult to Trafficking 911 and to the FBI, but nothing has been done yet. When Spencer mentions that they have reported the cult to the FBI and nothing was done, Max would claim that that's really weird because they had left a card on his front gate.
The FBI never responded. That's interesting. I literally got a card on my front fence from the FBI. They didn't even bother contacting you.
No.
And if you ask me, that could probably be used to show how inaccurate Max's investigations have been. That he's been supposedly reporting all these people to the FBI so often that the FBI is now looking into him, seeing what's going on, because none of his cases have shown any evidence. And that's just about it from that podcast, so let's move on to the next video. The next video, Max will go through the comments of the last video on his channel, replying to viewer questions about what he's doing. Max would claim that he started the predator hunting because when he entered the horror space, he began to notice predators all over the internet trying to take advantage of children. Max claims that his videos are made because
this series was my stand against the proliferation and normalization of pedophilia on the internet, and the severe lack of justice in our law enforcement systems.
Max acknowledges that the line between what's real and just in the MamaMax universe is blurry and that people are having issues deciphering what is real. Max says that he may redo those videos in the future, but also claims that society just isn't ready for what he wants to talk about. And Max, that's some real Redditor levels of cope. Like, nobody wants to keep supporting you if you're going to turn every serious situation into whatever artsy shit your videos have been. When a commenter says that what Max is doing is genuinely evil behavior since he's distracting from the stories, Max's only response is that the real evil behavior is taking away from the victims of CSA because they don't like Max. He then tries to take a holier than thou stance, saying he's taking part in projects that require time scripting, editing, and filming while everyone else is just reacting to drama. Max would claim months went into collaborating with the victims to tell their stories and raise her up, and that's why the podcast was on Spencer's account. When someone brings up that his edgy style of editing makes it hard for mainstream media to take it seriously, Max just claims that his editing style is necessary to gain the attention these stories require. Max would then claim to have reached out to reaction creators to get them to watch the previous video, and that he understands the dark nature of the video could turn people away. He says that creators not reacting only undermines the urgency needed for this investigation. But Max, you can't expect people to platform what you're saying without any amount of evidence. You have shown nothing that can be used yet. He then goes on to complain that his videos don't do as well as talking head videos, even though his take substantially more effort to make. He then shows a video of Spencer saying that everyone who criticized or complained about the video is just disrespecting her and the other victims.
I have been fighting for so long, screaming my story from the rooftops so that we can see justice. You've not only disrespected me, but you've also disrespected the other survivors.
And hear me out. If the video was put together in a cohesive and professional way with evidence, there would be no detractors. But nothing has been shown in the form of proof, and Max's editing style is only serving to confuse people, and that's where the video ends. So let's move on to the next one, I guess. The next video was initially titled The Greatest Cancellation of All Time with a thumbnail of Moist Critical, and was later changed to reacting to the reactions of SS Sniper Wolf. The video was actually just Max complaining that people were more focused on Sniper Wolf doxing Jack's films and not paying attention to what he's talking about. He then reiterates the accusations that Max and Spencer have made against Camden, and again says Leviathans are coming for him. The rest of the video honestly is just him complaining that entertainment drama is being more covered than his story, and I can understand being upset if you think what you're talking about is important, but you also can't expect everyone to even touch on the Camden situation if you won't give any real evidence, and we'll be getting to that evidence soon. We just have a couple streams to go through before that, so let's move on to it. Max claims this stream is for people to ask Spencer any questions they have about the Camden situation. And when asked if Camden has reached out with any comments, Max asks Spencer to explain how Camden runs the cult. Spencer would claim that he is constantly wiping their social media presence and group chats.
Spencer, explain what Camden does.
So pretty much Camden will purge all of the group chats. It's kind of like a pyramid scheme, but a cult. So you know, there's one group, and then they have the people under them, and then they have the people under them, so it just goes down the line. And when someone important leaves, he purges all the groups, makes everyone get new social medias, has them delete their current accounts, and yeah, he makes it practically impossible to find other survivors.
Spencer would claim that the cult has hundreds of victims, if not thousands, and that she knew of 200 at one point. She would also claim that the cult is still operating since he loved the power it gave him and he was too addicted to it to quit. Max would then add Lyrics to the call, and Lyrics would add his friend Colton. Colton would ask how people were being indoctrinated into the cult, and Spencer would claim that it was through anonymous messaging apps like Kik. She claims that Camden would convince people that they were supernatural beings like vampires and werewolves, and that most of the members were brought in while being minors. Spencer would claim Camden took a lot of inspiration from the cult from teen dramas.
He also took a lot of his shit from like the stupid shows like Supernatural and Teen
Twilight
Wolf and all that
Twilight,
shit.
Exactly.
He put on, you know, I saw your video. He put on a pretty convincing performance. You know, with those like fake teeth and everything. Like he had me sold. You know? I probably would have got groomed too. He could have got me if he would have just like, you know, his eyes on the little boys. You know.
She would say that Camden didn't care about the gender of the people in the cult, and that there was a lot of boys, but she hadn't been able to get in contact with any of them. Lyrics would tell Max that his last video that clickbaited Charlie was incredibly manipulative and weaponizing his audience. And Max replies by saying that he didn't mean for it to come off as, if you don't respond, you hate kids. But if you have a platform that big, you need to be talking about these issues. Lyrics would point out that argument is awful because there's always going to be a bigger issue than what's being talked about. And Max replies by saying he went after Charlie because he posts every day, so he doesn't think it'd be an issue to make one upload about it. But Max, you can't just expect people to start making videos on a topic that you haven't given any evidence to prove. They would be putting themselves at a huge risk of getting sued if your information isn't 100% accurate. They also point out that Max is trying to force Charlie into talking about it, and it's trivializing the issue he's trying to get put out there and causing people to roll their eyes at this situation, causing Max to say,
At least I have your eyes, though.
Lyrics would point out that if he had just made a full video documentary going over the situation like he normally does, then people would be covering it. And Max says the streams and everything are going into the documentary, and they wanted to get started now so they can bring together all the children from Camden's cult. Colton would ask if they had gone to law enforcement yet, and Spencer would claim that after she left the cult, she would go to Trafficking 911, who said they'd send the information to the FBI and never heard anything back. She also claims other former members have reported Camden, but nothing has happened happened there either. Lyrics points out that a lot of people are writing off the story because of how he's going about it, and Max's only response is to say people will always react like this because it makes them uncomfortable. Lyrics points out that that's a really convenient way to just write off any and all criticism, and that there's a right and wrong way to tackle PDF hunting. Lyrics would say that Max is handling this the wrong way, and it's so overdramatic that it feels like a parody.
But you can cover these things the right way and the wrong way. And I think you've seen an overwhelming amount of people saying that you're covering it a wrong way and you're going about it the wrong way, where it's just like getting people to like more trivialize it and laugh at it as opposed to like really caring. Like I'm not gonna lie, man, I watched your video and it was so over dramatic. It almost just became like a parody of like a pedo hunter.
And Max's only response is the cope of, well, other people liked it. They would loop back to Charlie, and Max trying to manipulate him into making a video. Max claims that he made it clear he's reaching out publicly because Charlie has supported good causes in the past and wants to make sure Charlie sees it because he could get a lot of good done by helping. Max would then try to distract from the conversation by reading a donation.
But I guess like the difference is that it feels like you're imposing this standard, like you're trying to push this standard onto him.
First Kiss Doodle donated $5 and said, Lyrics, I hope you find your clout somewhere else. Please stop derailing the conversation about edgy content and minimizing the victim.
Are we reading donations? Do you want me to read my donations? Like, what are we, I'm having a conversation. What the fuck? Who cares about like shit or chatters?
Colin would ask if Charlie hadn't made a video because he felt he couldn't positively affect the situation. Wouldn't a video just repeating Max's DM be redundant? Max replies by saying the video was just to get a line of communication open to Charlie so he could help. Colin again brings up that Max's video just felt condescending to everyone because he took the stance of what I'm talking about is more important than what you're talking about. Max's only response is that he is talking about what's important and that these situations require everyone to come together. Lyrics and Max get into an argument about Max dodging responding, and Max tries to hide behind Spencer, causing Lyrics to say nobody cares what she has to say since it's his platform, and Max kicks them from the call.
You know, that's ridiculous to try to push that onto him, and you're doing it very in a manipulative way. That's that's the point I'm making.
I think we can all do better.
Dude, good one.
And hold on. So and again, I'm not asking him to cover it.
We could all do better. Like, are you trolling me right now?
It's true.
Are you not? But do you hear what I'm saying?
I do hear what you're
dodging.
Saying. I do hear what you're saying. I am just saying. I mean, it's an objective truth. We can all do better to help fix these global issues.
Yeah, but you're dodging and like deflecting what I'm saying though. Like that's not actually a response. Like we could all do better. Let's all hold hands. Like.
Yeah, we can do better is pretty. It's pretty vague because it's not. You shut up. Because it's pretty like you can't really apply it to any specific situation. Because how this is something I want to ask you as well, if that's all right. How?
No, Colton, you gotta shut up. You gotta shut up. You gotta shut up. Your time's done. MamaMax is done.
Spencer, what do you think?
My point.
Spencer, what do you think?
Who cares about Spencer? You're the guy with the fucking platform. I'm sorry, all due respect, but I don't give a fuck about this person's opinion. You're the one of 700.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry about that, Spencer. What do y'all think about Lyrics?
Yeah, no, I was about to fucking tell him off.
Max would claim that everyone is trying to take away from CSA survivors and just talking about how his video could have been better. He says he understands why Lyrics was saying you can't make people cover what you want them to, but then asks why not and says we should be talking about it. But he doesn't seem to understand the entire issue. People would be covering the cult if you had just shown any evidence of it actually existing instead of this clickbaiting bullshit. Spencer would claim that they need to be handling the case as they are because the Jax film Sniper Wolf drama had already settled. Israel and Palestine is always going to be talked about, and the cult survivors just want to tell their stories and be heard. Max would be asked what interested him in Spencer's case, and he replies that he's sick of seeing predators get away like Pablo Sonny. And I'm sorry, but hasn't Max been going around saying that Pablo Sonny was caught for like the last few years? He would then claim that they're taking donations through his Patreon because...
And I want to actually answer some questions about like why the why we're doing donations through my Patreon rather than a GoFundMe. That is because I'm contractually obligated to see this case through. and make sure Spencer is taken care of. Spencer is moving over to me in a couple of days, actually, and we're gonna find her her own place, and I will be paying for all of it. So this is my case. Camden's cult is my case now.
And I know it's been said before, but isn't moving the lead witness into your house a conflict of interest? Like, if you're directly supporting them through housing and money, that kills all credibility because she could be willing to say anything so she won't get cut off. Now, I'm not saying that's what's happening here, but it really doesn't help his case at all. After a few minutes, they get Mudahar into the call, and Muda would say that the story so far has been incredibly confusing. He tells Max that the screenshots lasting only a frame made it really hard to find all the information that he was trying to convey, and that the screenshots shown, while sexually charged, weren't enough to say that's a vampire sex cult. While Muda says he isn't avoiding making a video on the Camden situation, he does require a lot of evidence to call someone a cult leader. He also says that what Max needs to be doing is putting together as many facts as he can to take to the authorities, since that's the best chance at getting something done. Max would say he's so glad to be getting this criticism, and that's the entire reason he made the group chat with all of his YouTube friends, so he can take any criticisms to make telling the story better. Max says he assumed that everyone was going to go to the 5-hour podcast on Spencer's channel, and Muda pointed out that not everyone is going to make it through 5 hours of a video, and that people need essentially the Cliff Notes version of the situation. People need a cohesive way to consume the story and see all the evidence of how the cult is being ran. Muda tells Max that his videos don't give a cohesive story and didn't show the proof people would need to run the story on their channels, and Max would claim that the next video being put up is the timeline. Muda would claim,
yeah, I feel like the only way to avoid this controversy that I guess is this whole situation is embroiled, because I don't think it's good controversy in any capacity. Like, I get that people are talking about it, but they're not talking about any of this in a productive manner. Your first video should have easily been like this whole story, and then like I said, like anybody would have covered it. Like I talked about a charity situation like a week or two ago with Carl Jobston. The thing is, like, we had to sit and create the story, and then it got like some media traction and some people covered it. But the most important thing is that story. It's to show people why something is wrong, why there is an ill in society. And if you'd have done that initially, easily a bunch of YouTubers, a bunch of individuals would have talked about this in a very productive manner. Because right now the whole situation is so tainted. Everyone's wondering, everyone's turning this into like, everyone's accusing you of over dramatizing this situation, or going about it the wrong way by reaching out to YouTubers without having a solid story to start off with, or that's the real issue.
And Max would again just say he assumed everyone would go to the podcast, and shortly after, Muda would leave the call. After talking in chat for a while, Spencer starts answering questions about the cult and the entire situation. Somebody asks if Max thinks it's smart to move Spencer to him, therefore making her dependent on him, and he has Spencer answer the question.
There's actually a really good question here by Clay. Max, do you think that with her history flying Spencer out to you and making her financially dependent on you is a good practice? What do you think, Spencer?
Well, I'm also building my own platform and everything, so I am working on a way for me to earn my own money so I can try and fund my own life. If anything ever did happen, I do have other people I could go to, so I heavily trust Max, and my dad ain't gonna let no shit happen.
They then spend more time talking in chat about other YouTubers and why he publicly reached out to Charlie. Scare Theater would reach out saying he wants to talk about everything, and after he gets added, he says that Max's video really felt like if you didn't support Max and Spencer, then you're supporting the PDFs. Max claims that's not how he wanted it to come across, and that he was just trying to get his attention and start a conversation. Scare Theater will point out that if he had just gone forward with the people he had, Charlie would have more than likely made a video anyways. Scare Theater leaves the call shortly after, and Spencer goes back to talking in chat about the situation. While talking in chat, Spencer would tell everyone the town Camden's mom lives in, and claims Camden had been stealing thousands of dollars from a long-distance girlfriend. She would claim that most of the children were online because they were too scared to run away from their families.
I'm sorry if I don't...
they said, how many children are in the cult? Does he keep children at the property? How is it organized, generally speaking? So,
when I was there, majority of everything was online. I think majority of the kids were too scared to actually run away to him. So when I was there, it was just me and another girl that lived a town over. But she didn't live with us. But he was trying to find other people closer.
Spencer would go on to claim that Camden tried to set the cult up like a family dynamic. Camden would have a group that were his kids, and the leaders of the other factions of the cult would have their own kids. After a while, a former PDF hunter going by Spider Centaur asked to join the call and talks about the cult. While trying to add Spider, Max would say,
So just for context, I met Spider Centaur by she was documenting all of the stuff my exes were saying and like connecting the dots to everything and like, but this doesn't match up with this and like what is going on, and she was just genuinely asking them questions, and they didn't like that, so I think they started threatening, one of them started threatening her, but I'll add her.
After talking with Chat for a while longer, they eventually add Spider to the call. Spider would come in asking about the statute of limitations on if Camden could be charged for what he's allegedly done. And Max says he doesn't think that should matter and Camden should be thrown in jail for the rest of his life. Max would claim that the case is more than just Spencer and that they know for sure Camden has been continuing his behavior. Max then consults ChatGPT on if the statute of limitations would matter for this case, getting told that trafficking, SA, and assault could have longer statutes or not even have one. However, that really says nothing and is the most basic overview. Spider then pulls two articles, one from 2018 and one from 2023. They say that the statute for this kind of crime is 7 years, so Spencer couldn't even get justice. Max would claim that even if they're past the statute, they're still going to push for legal action against Camden. They talk for a while longer about stuff we've already covered, and Spider ends up leaving the call. Spencer and Max would spend the rest of the stream talking to Chat and answering a few questions, including circling back to the puppy stomp video, saying the guy who made the video was a kid and he isn't going after them. They end the stream shortly after, so let's move on. Max will post a video titled, I place accountability into my own hands. He opens the video saying that he made a 30-minute video titled Silence All Survivors, where he went over the whole Camden situation. Max would send the video around to some friends and he's being told to just cover the case or apologize for fucking it up. Max claims to feel like he's being pulled every which way, but he's trying to put the survivors ahead of himself. He says it's been very difficult to deal with the case and he can't seem to do the right thing. He then apologizes for not being able to make everyone happy with the case. Max would claim that the whole point of making the video was to find any remaining survivors of Camden and to bring them together to tell their stories and help build the case. He acknowledges that there have been issues with the investigation and that he wants to fix it, and claims to be listening to dissenting voices and the voices of people he trusts, but everyone is telling him to do something different. He would claim that he's been adding people to the Discord so they can see the evidence but won't listen to their survivors telling their stories. Max would claim that if he had made everything clear in the beginning, he wouldn't be in the situation, and claims to take accountability for that, but then immediately deflects, saying he thought people would go to Spencer's podcast. He would say that the podcast was on Spencer's channel to help them grow a platform, and that what survivors need isn't just to be heard but also be supported financially. Max would then downplay all the criticism by saying that it's just people trying to hate on him. Max then runs through the timeline that leads up to where we're at. He claims to have met Spencer and been told the story, and Max took 3 years to get back to her. They would get the podcast made, and Max claimed that he wanted to just give survivors a platform, but claims,
Originally, I just wanted to do a podcast where we platform survivors and they tell their story. But you can't just tell your story anymore. Now you need concrete evidence. Now you need to go to law enforcement multiple times. Now you need to consult with lawyers. Like, we can't just listen to survivors when they're screaming for help. And that's why I've been taking all of these creative, experimental approaches to try to bolster their voice, so that not only can they be heard, but they can be seen and they can be addressed.
And yeah, Max, you need evidence if you're going to make allegations that could ruin someone's life. Max would then apologize to Charlie for using him in the video and claims to take accountability and will try to correct his actions. Max wants to start fresh, and the first step is to find the remaining survivors. He knows they're out there, but needs help finding them. He then says they need to wait on law enforcement to get involved so they can get the case properly started. He claims that when he's done, he wants to put out the first part of the documentary where they show everything. He would then end the video by playing audio clips of the survivor stories, and now we're moving on to his downfall, so let's get into it. On January 17th, 2024, Mutahar and Nicholas Diorio will post their investigations into MamaMax on their respective channels. We're going to start with Mutahar first and work our way through both of them, so strap in because there's a lot of what we thought to be true about Max's past that's about to be shattered. Muto opened his video saying that it isn't a video he wanted to make or cover the situation that Max was talking about since he's not an expert in the field. He would give a brief rundown on Max's past, talking about how Max gained his popularity and respect in the community. He would then bring up how a lot of predator hunting channels won't work with law enforcement, therefore making their case inadmissible. Muto would say that he claims Max is making a mockery of the Camden situation with how he's been covering it. He would go on to run down a timeline of events and show how Max had reached out. Max would ask Muto to join a call and sign an NDA to see the video before it's posted for feedback, which Muto would agree to. Muto would point out that he was busy when these conversations were taking place, since he was in the middle of his completionist investigation, so he fell a little behind in responding to Max. After just a couple days of no response, Max would reach out again, saying that while these topics are heavy and hard to deal with, Muto's platform can be used to help raise up the survivors. Muto would claim that he felt like Max was trying to guilt him into talking about the situation, even though he hasn't seen any concrete proof. Max would continue sending Muto the videos and messages until Muto would eventually see that this is the greatest cancellation of all time video, scaring him into thinking a close friend of his was about to have allegations brought up against him. This would cause Muta to catch up on the situation and messaging Max saying he would be down to get in a call and find a better way to put out the information because he's doing it in the wrong way. Muta would tell Max that the videos put out don't damn Camden and that without the needed evidence the videos don't hold any weight. Mutahar would go on to say that this is Max's story and without the evidence he's just opening himself up to legal repercussions. On top of that, if Camden saw any of the videos, he could start deleting the evidence, forever putting it out of reach. And if he is armed and dangerous, then it could cause him to harm someone else. Muta acknowledges that he knows that the evidence can't always be perfect, but you can't publicize the little bit you do have endangering everything that you're missing. Muta will move on talking about the God Cult rebranding and the brainwashing your favorite influencer video, bringing up that in the disclaimer, there's a point of parts being fictitious, and if any influencer denies what's in the video, they could be anything from a groomer to a PDF.
He scrolls a massive disclaimer. I need frame-by-frame analysis to read. Two key points from this bullshit that I found interesting to me was when Max had signified that this was fictitious materials, when in reality this is serious allegations we're talking about. How is this a fictitious element, and why are we putting any of that into this video? Even if it is for legal reasons, can we actually believe anything that you're about to say and the people that you're about to name? That's a pretty big point of contention, and one that we'll come back to round trip towards the end of the video. The other big part is when he starts pointing out that if influencers deny anything here in this, then they could be one of these following horrible things like internet predators, like human traffickers, groomers, so on and so forth. Which again is insane to put anybody critical of what they're about to see, especially when they should be critical of what Max is about to post, into a severe camp just again for denying any of the contents that he's posted in this video.
Muta runs through the rest of the video until he gets to the allegations against Camden. When he gets there, Muta points out that these allegations require concrete proof and police intervention, not a YouTube video. He would get frustrated by the level of theatrics from Max, reminding everyone that these are heinous crimes and need to stop being treated like a Netflix show. Max's video will claim that Camden would try to run a disinformation campaign against them, but Muta points out that nobody has heard so much as a word from Camden during all of this. He would point out that Max begging other YouTubers to cover this situation without evidence is causing people to think this is all some big joke. and it's just hurting the case. Muda asks how Max could expect everyone to make videos about this on blind faith, and brings up how he just had the completionist investigation where he had to pull together all of the proper evidence. He claims that if he didn't, he would be a laughingstock in the community, and that's unfortunately what Max is facing. Muda would move on to the What Happened to MamaMax video and talks about the criticism Max brings up in the video. He would point out that it seems like Max was deflecting the criticism and hiding behind the victims and children he claims to defend instead of showing any evidence. He then points out that Max was definitely profiting off the story of the victims by jumping into Max's Patreon stats. When Max claims that he spent months working on the videos, Muda points out that if he did, Max would be able to put together a cohesive line of events with evidence, but hasn't been able to. Muda says that all everybody wants is for Max to show the evidence for what he's claiming. If he do that, then everybody would be happy, but Max is refusing to and destroying his credibility in the process. Muda would then get to the greatest cancellation video, explaining that the Sniper Wolf situation wasn't just meaningless playground drama like Max claims, but had big implications for the platform as a whole. He would talk about the rest of the video and frame by frame to see all the screenshots that were just flashed on screen for one frame. Max would show what appears to be an argument between Spencer and Camden, but we can't prove their validity in a tweet with the handle cut off. Muda would claim that the name in the tweet showed nothing on Twitter and that he can't understand why Max would redact the actual @ He would go through the rest of the screenshots asking for context since none of it proves any wrongdoings by themselves. Muda would bring up how Max talks about mass surveillance and trafficking in his video, then asks how that ties back to the Camden situation and points out that without the evidence it feels like Max is just throwing things together haphazardly. Muda will point out that this video was the final nail in the coffin, and instead of listening to the criticism and properly responding, Max would host streams where he invited influencers on to argue. Muda then goes over Spencer's story from her podcast. Muda would point to Slime Beast's video about what the cult is and goes on to explain the story so far. Muda would then show a portion of a call that Nicholas Diorio released after the videos were posted. The clip Muda shows here is Max claiming that he's seen the evidence but hasn't been walked through all the context and has only heard Spencer's story so far, and that he's fine saying it's all alleged now. Muda will go on to point out that if Max hasn't been walked through the evidence yet, then he shouldn't have made a video. He would also claim that he doesn't understand why Max would play his hand like this before even knowing the whole story. Muda would then move on to Max's unethical actions in the investigation and his previous ones, and this is where everything he's ever done is called into question. Muda would point out that the streams that Max has been doing have been incredibly unhelpful and could have been spent making a better video. He then shows a clip that shows the general vibe of all of the streams Max did with the survivors.
Yeah, you can hear me. Why are you running cover for these vampire?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing, Keem. Good shit.
Vampire in
Yep.
the Minecraft community, you're going around, you're running cover.
That's
for
my
a
fucking cult.
Storm of
Yep.
EDP 445s. You're gonna
You know
flood the
me.
world with EDP 445s.
It's fucking good.
Showing how unserious the situation has been handled. Muda points out that in these streams, people would ask if Max and the survivors were working with the police, and Max would claim that they're still trying to get in contact with the proper authorities. Muda would say that this is a key concern for everyone covering the case, and that if Max isn't working with the authorities, then nothing can actually get done. After Max's videos on the Camden situation would start coming out, a group of Redditors would start going through Max's old videos and started finding problems. When it came to the Cartoon Incorporated video, they would find that the font used in the Frozen 3 video was the same as Max's that he uses in most of his videos, and
the Frozen 3 video is edited with a similar style to Max's older content. Brainwashing clip. Subliminal messages hidden within the clip uses the font Pixture Granular, a unique font type that appears in Max's later videos. The font type is not a default font on Windows OS or in Adobe Fonts, meaning the font was searched for and downloaded or purchased. Side note, someone recreated Cartoon Incorporated and posted breakdowns of the brainwashing clip. What is the likelihood that Max shares the same unusual font with something he happened across that literally no one else can find? Editing style also seems similar to his old video intros.
The IMVU video implied that Pablo Sunny had exploited the Casey account, and Max had found her YouTube through a reverse image search of the Naruto character Pain, even though it'd be nearly impossible to find it that way since it's a screenshot from an episode. Max would also claim to have gained access to the accounts and found an unlisted video called "This is where you R-worded and unalived me," but would later claim that Casey is alright and alive. Casey's YouTube and IMVU accounts also mysteriously got deleted at the same time as Max and Sylphet's accounts. In the call with Muda, Nick, Spencer, and Max, Max would say that a lot of the crimes are embellished and shouldn't be taken 100% seriously. He would then claim that he only wants people to believe him when he directly calls someone a predator and shows their face.
Like it's a film. Like I am presenting it as if it were to be real, but I didn't think people would take it as that. Like,
but wait, you hunt pedophiles. You don't think that people are going to think your videos are real?
So that's the thing. So I want everyone, when you watch my video, to assume everything is fake, except like when I show a face and what they're doing.
Muda will point out how irresponsible it is to mix facts and fictions in situations like this. He would claim that he doesn't believe Max is faking evidence, but how could he run investigations on such serious topics if he's mixing in fiction? Muda would then loop back to the IMVU video and Pablo Sunny and shows this clip of Max admitting he's never got anyone arrested.
Have you ever gotten someone arrested?
If I have, then I don't know it.
You went on my podcast to tell me that you've got someone arrested and it was because of your video, just to be clear. Would you like to re-answer that question?
I've been emailed stuff like, hey, you got this guy arrested, congratulations.
You went on and you said, this guy was arrested, it was because of me, it was because of my video. And you told me that 2 years ago.
It's kind of egotistical of me to say that it was my video that did it. I don't know that for sure.
But then you said recently that he fled to the Philippines. So was Sonny ever arrested? Pablo Sonny? Did that ever even happen?
Yes, he did. All we know is that his last location we picked him up from was Mexico. Whether he fled to the Philippines or not, we don't know. We just know he has family there, and that's the most likely destination they would go to, just because.
But he was in, like, so he was arrested. That was.
Pablo Sonny? I don't think so. I think he got away.
Dude, what the fuck?
That's right, y'all. The thing Max has been pushing around for the last few years to validate his investigations was just never true. He never caught a predator, and at this point, I don't know what we can and can't trust from him anymore. To show how unprofessionally this case is being handled, Muda shows a clip of Max asking ChatGPT for legal advice and claiming that ChatGPT understands the legal system. In the call, Muda would tell Max that they have to be using exact legal definitions and not asking an AI that's been getting dumber. Max would then claim that multiple testimony can be used in a case as evidence, and Muda points out that if that's true, then Max is the most guilty because he had 5 girls and Magnetar coming out against him. Muda would also go on to apologize to Magnetar for supporting Max's allegations even after Max claimed to not have enough evidence to run the story. Muda would then get to the taking accountability in my own hands video, saying that Max just wasted 3 years by putting it off for other projects. Muda then asks if Max pushed it for 3 years, why does he freak out when someone doesn't answer in 3 weeks? Muda gets to Max asking why they need evidence instead of just listening to survivors, and Muda points out that yes, you obviously need evidence because Max is accusing someone of doing the worst thing you can do. You can't expect somebody to support his case without evidence of anything to ruin somebody's life. Muda then loops back to the call with Nick, Max, and Spencer and shows a clip that I think shows Max's true nature.
Well, I'm asking why you did not directly contact me, but contact us only in public stream.
Let's see, I contacted you November 27th. Max, I've seen your latest video. I've caught up with this whole situation. I have texted you.
What it felt like seeing him on streams?
You went on with Tommy and Lyrics and are sitting there talking to them when you literally haven't spoken to the other survivors.
Hold on, can you put Max on for a second?
I'm right here.
That was snaky as fuck, dude. Oh, I'm coming after you, Mudahar. Stand back, Spencer. Can you tell him what you felt? You are literally just a little
because
snake
it
hiding
literally.
behind her, dude. That's
Can you
disgusting.
listen to me? Can you listen to me? It was so
fucking heartbreaking hearing Muta sit there and say that, oh, if this is fake, then I'll gladly put money towards Camden's defamation trial.
Yeah, if it
That
is fake.
was
I thought you said it's
up.
fine with saying it's allegedly. Now all of a sudden,
It's
there's
real?
No,
But no,
there's no
the
like
thing
other side to the
is,
story.
how do you feel? How do you think that it makes myself and the other survivors feel when you're saying that? It is okay to think that, but you're going publicly and saying that to everybody else when you haven't spoken to the others. I'm just trying to understand, why would you do that without talking to us?
I've spoken with Max. Max is your representative. Max is supposed to be the one bringing the story across to everyone. And yes, if in the case that everything is actually... Why is it your job? Because you're the one who's like spearheading this. You're the one spearheading it. What do you mean? Fine, give it to Spencer's channel. Spencer, you upload this whole thing.
Because
What?
you're the fucking person who's running the investigation.
Oh my
This is
God.
your
Investigate
case.
this as well, and you haven't.
Yeah, why are you putting it all on me? Like, yes,
You're the fucking one bringing it. Why are you talking about this
Absolutely,
case?
I am the first one.
Yeah.
I do not want to be the only one.
You're
I'm the only one.
Well, then you are the only one. You haven't convinced. Exactly. You haven't made anything
You
compelling.
haven't been listening to them. I've been
because you
trying
haven't been
to
giving
set up
anybody
a
anything to
call
work
like
with.
this for months.
Yeah, and I've had a 2-hour-long call, and I'm not
Muta.
moving anywhere close to the situation. In fact, I have more questions.
Why can't you take initiative to talk to other survivors?
Well, I'm talking to you right now more than anybody else.
Muta will go on to apologize in the video for saying he'd fund Camden's legal battle if it comes out to be false. He claims that it was just supposed to be a big fuck you to Max because he felt Max wasn't taking the investigation seriously. Muta would claim that he's now helping the victims in the background and has heard stories of what allegedly goes on in the cult. Muta would then end the video soon after saying he's learned more about this cult in the previous 48 hours than Max had put out in the entire investigation, and saying Max shouldn't be running cases like this ever again. So let's move on to next video. Nicholas Diorio would open his video by claiming,
Today, you're going to see undeniable evidence that MamaMax is a complete and total fraud. He is a content creator who claims his platform exists to empower abuse survivors, and the reality is, MamaMax is a liar. His actions in the past and present paint a far more sinister picture.
Nick would state that the video has clips of the leaked call and he 100% consents to it being released. He would claim Max asked him to react to his content on stream and to promote his investigation into Camden. However, Max had shown no evidence of his claims and gave the creators nothing to work with. Nick would stream for 10 hours covering the case, and by the end of it, he points out that we still don't know exactly what Camden has done, but we know his mom's name for some reason. Nick points out that when people are criticizing Max, he just replies by explaining the MamaMax universe. He would criticize Max moving Spencer into his house, then shows a clip of Max saying the FBI is looking for him. Nick would point out that Spencer had committed a crime when she admitted to luring a child into the cult for Camden, and that all she's doing is helping to build a defamation case against Max. Nick would point out that Max had claimed in the past to have caught predators, but when being questioned about the process he's going through with law enforcement, he claims to not know much about it. Nick shows Max asking for other big creators to watch, share, and give feedback to the videos, but when anybody gives him any form of criticism, he refuses to accept it. Nick would then point out how unethical it was for Max to be running the investigation since he's so close to Spencer, is housing her, and is giving her part of his income. He mentions that while he isn't claiming Spencer is lying, it would be a very good motivation. He goes on to show a clip from one of the lost streams where Max and Spencer reveal that they are in fact not strangers in the first place, but that Max's mom and Spencer's aunt were friends. Spencer went to school with Max's sister, and Spencer has known Max's family her whole life. This clearly shows that Max shouldn't be running the investigation with how close he is to it personally. It only serves as a conflict of interest, and he may not be thinking rationally. On top of all of that, it is then revealed that Spencer is in charge of all the money for the investigation. Nick begins running through the videos Max has put out around the Camden situation, pointing out that the brainwash your favorite influencer video had only a couple minutes of stuff about the investigation, and the rest was begging for other other creators to promote them and talk about how influencers use cult tactics, which isn't the point of the video. Nick would continue to say Max's next video was just a response to his last video bombing and complaining about other creators not dropping everything and covering his topic. Max would then use Spencer as a shield to hide from the criticism, and Nick brings attention to it, saying he'll loop back to it later. Nick would then get to the "This is the greatest cancellation" video, calling it a weird Frankenstein of the previous two videos, saying the video was about how influencers use cult tactics and clickbaiting Charlie. Nick would then talk about the podcast on Spencer's channel, claiming that it is just spoken testimony, and while this gives us most of the information about Camden and what he's done, there's no evidence that was shown with the spoken testimony. Nick would then move on talking about how Max would run live streams on his channel after the videos were posted, and they just contained a lot of what we were already given. The same testimony was given in these streams. Max complained about other creators not immediately supporting him, and he brought in all the victims to each as Max debated a bunch of creators who would just end up making a joke of the case.
I just want to start off with this. As you can tell, I'm very autistic, and I just want to let you guys know that if I slip up and say the R word, I have the pass. So just so we're all clear on that.
Nick would then show how Max uses survivors as a shield anytime he gets criticized for how he's running the case, claiming that he's handling it just how they want. Nick would point out how on a stream they couldn't control what actually gets said as easily, and that if they say something dumb on stream, it'll last forever and could bring down the credibility of the entire case. Nick would go on to show a clip showing that Max and the victims claim to have been trying to get this case taken care of with the authorities, but they've done nothing over 7 years, so they want to take civil action and sue Camden and the authorities. Max would claim that the last time they tried law enforcement was before Max was involved, and in a later stream, Max would claim that after talking to a lawyer, they're going to get as many victims together to go in person to report Camden. And I don't know about you, but wouldn't that be your first thought? Like, why haven't you taken it to law enforcement first, but started streaming about it and screaming that nobody is listening to you if you haven't taken it to the authorities? Nick would bring up Max changing his channel to God Cult and would directly claim that's what's causing people to believe that they were subbed to a hacked channel and confusing everyone. And instead of taking any accountability, Max would blame everyone else, claiming that he believes self-preservation is what matters to them and not CSA survivors. Nick would then show a clip from the call him and Muda had with Max, where Max was trying to guilt them into doing more and pushing his story that has no evidence.
Yeah, why are you putting it all on me?
Because it's your case!
The one bringing it. Why are you
Absolutely, I am the first one.
Yeah.
You are the only one! You haven't convinced anyone to come on board yet!
You haven't convinced exactly.
That's
You haven't
because
made
you
any
haven't been listening to them.
That's because you haven't been giving anybody anything to work with!
This for months.
Yeah, and
Why-
I've had a 2-hour
Muta,
long
why-
call, and I'm
Muta.
not moving anywhere close to the situation.
Muta,
In fact,
why
I'm
can't you take initiative to talk to other survivors?
Well, I'm talking to you right now more than anybody else.
Max would then try to use Muda seeing the evidence behind an NDA as a way to convince creators to talk about the case, even though they haven't seen the evidence and it's locked away behind said NDA, so they couldn't discuss what was in it anyways. Nick would show a clip of Max claiming that he called Camden a cult leader and predator because that's how he's been described by the victims. Max would then claim that testimony can serve as evidence in a court of law and claims that that's all the evidence he needs. Nick and Muda would point out that Max needs more than that to call someone a PDF and a cult leader. When Max would argue that that's all he needs, Nick and Muda would point out that if testimony is enough evidence, then Max is one of the most guilty people alive, since he had 5 girls coming out with accusations against him. Max was able to get out of that fine because it was just testimony with no evidence, and Max tries to claim that that was different since they were all in a group chat conspiring to take him down, and Nick and Muda would call that hypocritical since he's in the Discord with all the victims. Nick would then point out that Max had doxed Camden's mother, knowing full well that his audience would go out and harass her even though Camden doesn't live with her anymore. He would go on to point out Max using ChatGPT for legal definitions, and his claims that ChatGPT understands the legal system, causing Nick to say,
If tomorrow I was like, oh, where's Max getting his legal definitions? Oh, ChatGPT. We'll read it together.
ChatGPT understands the legal system.
While I fully believe that MamaMax is speaking to legitimate lawyers in some capacity, sending us something like this to explain his position is absolutely absurd, and I find it funny that he wants us to take him seriously.
Nick would then show a clip of Max admitting that he hasn't even looked at all the evidence and has only gone through Spencer's to get context. In the clip, Nick and Muda would point out that if he hasn't been walked through the evidence, then he clearly doesn't know what's actually going on, just like everyone else. Nick would point out that all Max did with his videos accusing Camden is setting Camden up to take everything from him and the victims in the court. Nick would go on to show how anytime while Max's videos doesn't do well or gets taken down, he throws these tantrums on his YouTube where he calls out some bigger YouTubers or the company for the clout and to get his videos reinstated. He then moves on to Max's previous investigations and the results of them. Nick would show a clip of Max claiming to get Pablo Sonny arrested on the Half Baked podcast, but points out that one guy through 5 years of these investigations isn't good, that we don't know what happened with Pablo Sonny, and that we have no idea how many predators Max has caught. On a Chud Logic stream where he was reacting to Max's content, he noticed that in the Roly Poly no Nanakronoki Yoki video, the Discord Max joined during the investigation had a gear icon that only admins, mods, and owners of Discord servers have. This clearly shows Max is willing to fake the evidence in his videos for storytelling purposes. This would cause Redder by the name of Maximum Platypus 69 to put together a post of questionable evidence that Max has used in the past for his videos, and Nick would focus in on the portion about IMVU. Nick would reiterate the claims about Casey in the video, but points out that Casey's accounts were deleted shortly after the video came out, making it really weird that he would later say Casey is okay. How would Max be able to reach out to Casey and confirm it was her if her accounts are now gone? Nick points out that there is a big possibility that Casey never even existed and was created for Max's videos, and talks about how malicious it would be if he did. Nick then goes back to the leak call and claims that he had 3 examples of career-ending screw-ups from Max. He then lets 8 minutes of the call play where Max would claim that the investigations are real, but the investigations are also films that have fictional elements like the Roly Poly no Nanakronoki Yoki Discord. Max would also claim that he presents the video as real, but he didn't expect people to take it that way and only wants people to believe when he shows a predator's face and directly calls them one. Nick would ask Max what his proudest aspect of his investigations are, and Max would claim that it's not the putting predators away, but inspiring the victims to fight back. Nick would ask Max if he had ever gotten a predator arrested, and Max would reply with,
Have you ever gotten someone arrested?
If I have, then I don't know it.
You went on my podcast to tell me that you've got someone arrested and it was because of your video, just to be clear. Would you like to re-answer that question?
I've been emailed stuff like, hey, you got this guy arrested, congratulations.
You went on and you said, this guy was arrested, it was because of me, it was because of my video. And you told me that 2 years ago.
It's kind of egotistical of me to say that it was my video that did it. I don't know that for sure.
But then you said recently that he fled to the Philippines. So was Sonny ever arrested? Pablo Sonny? Did that ever even happen?
Yes, he did. All we know is that his last location we picked him up from was Mexico. Whether he fled to the Philippines or not, we don't know. We just know he has family there, and that's the most likely destination they would go to, just because.
But he was so he was arrested. That was
Pablo Sonny? I don't think so. I think he got away.
Dude, what the fuck?
Max would ask to see a clip of that, and when Nick shows it, Max's only reply is, yeah, that's not cool, and you can let people know I think that, which is an objectively awful response and only shows that we can't trust a word that comes out of his mouth if he's willing to lie about that. When asked how he ensures that the evidence is usable in court, Max would talk about the Wayne video, claiming that he has videos of him asking for nudes and videos of what he believes to be a minor. But Max would also say even though he sent the videos to the law enforcement, nothing has been done about him and the cops can't do anything, even though Max believes it to be enough to put them away forever. Nick would then get Max to admit that he's never actually gotten a predator arrested and he just wants to be an inspiration for victims to come out and tell their stories, and that's where the clip ends. Nick would go on to clarify.
So just to clarify, the vast majority of Max's content is fake. He's flabbergasted that you stupid viewers thought it was real. He's also lied about getting arrested to try to bolster his credibility in the past, and he can't even keep his story straight now.
He would then point out that when asked how Max ensures his evidence can be used and is ethical, Max essentially confirms that he's a content vigilante with no ethical framework. Nick would then show a clip of Max's downfall through the streams he's done, and showing that Max has done nothing to actually put away predators and hides behind the victims. Nick would move on to talk about the Magnetar situation, where Max claims that he was a PDF and ruined his life with allegations he couldn't prove. These claims would cause Max's audience to call and email Magnetar's job until they were able to get him fired, even though the allegations are completely unsubstantiated and there's no evidence to prove it. The only people to see this proof was Max's sister and some unknown girl. Max absolutely had motivation to ruin Magnetar since he was platforming Max's exes to tell their stories, showing just how malicious these accusations actually were, especially with exactly zero evidence. Nick brings up that Max's credibility was what allowed this accusation to be run, causing people like Mudahart to push these allegations, hurting Magnetar even more and causing people to ignore the stories of his exes. Nick would reach his conclusion soon after by saying,
in conclusion, this video proves that Max Stryker is a complete and total fraud. His persona MamaMax is a freak who does not help children prosecute their abusers. He hunts predators online as a soldier of fortune. He lies about his accomplishments to bolster his credibility. He manipulates his audience of abuse survivors by not disclosing large portions of his content are completely fake, and he uses credibility he never deserved in the first place to silence and ruin other people's lives.
He would then bring up Max creating a QR code campaign about, let's say, dominating Tommy C for being a critic of his videos. Nick uses that to emphasize that nobody should be taking Max seriously and doesn't deserve support or a second chance. Then shows a parody of Max's video to say,
I know you, Max. I know how you operate. My friends and I know what you're about to say, so we have to spell it out for you. Yo, John Swan, drop the bass.
Though we are different, we are all the same. Because above all else, there's one thing that holds us together. We don't like P-words!
Cameron Gerard Davis is a child predator that has molested hundreds of children under the pretense of a vampire werewolf cult. It's absolutely crucial that we spread awareness of him.
Cameron Gerard Davis's time is up. He's about to be exposed. Cameron Gerard Davis, you're going to jail.
And that's where Nick ends the video, but not where this ends, because a week later, Nick would post the leaked call between him, Muda, Max, and Spencer in a video titled, "This video will make you hate MamaMax." Now, I'm not going to go over the entirety of the call. It's over 3 hours, and we've already covered the important stuff, but I do recommend listening to it on Nick's second channel, so let's move on to the next video. Nick's video, "This video will make you hate MamaMax," opens with Nick explaining that he never thought that after the investigation, Max would continue his downfall through live streams. Now, these live streams I couldn't find, but there's some stuff from them that Nick will talk about in this video. Nick then gives a quick rundown of the MamaMax situation so far and claims,
to put things plainly, Max has no idea what he's doing and has created a circus around these women.
He would then explain this video is going to cover some things Nick left out of his previous video, go over Max's response, and show some testimony from some of Max's friends. Nick would start talking about the "I take accountability into my own hands" video, claiming Max took zero accountability and they knew he wasn't going to since he tried to vaguely threaten Mudahar before the previous videos came out.
The truth is, we knew Max was going to pull this stunt. In fact, he vaguely threatened Mudahar by saying he, Muda, will appear on the wrong side of history, and he threw in a far more direct, "This will get very ugly for you and your brand" in there just for good measure.
Nick would then claim that Max's video was just fishing for sympathy and Nick won't give him any, then moves on to the claims of Max hiding behind the victims. And to demonstrate this, Nick shows a clip of Max saying saying survivors are screaming for their help, then plays a bunch of clips from the victims trying to pull at the viewer's heart. Nick then points out that while he and Mutahar got shade thrown their way, Charlie got glazed through Max's video. Max would apologize to Charlie in his video, and Nick would point out that that's only because after Max clickbaited him, Charlie was still willing to have a call with Max and hear out the story. Max would try to compare him calling Camden a PDF is the same as Charlie calling Sneeko one. But the difference here is that there's no evidence public against Camden and full streams of Sneeko talking about how much he loved movies like Cuties. Nick would then bring up that Max had tried to start a GoFundMe for the legal battle, but it was taken down within hours of being made. He would then state that Max's responses have done nothing to stop his subscriber count from bleeding, and that Max had lost 47,000 subscribers through January. Nick would point out that in response, Max has deleted all of his Camden videos and streams, and that even the victims are starting to turn on him. Nick would then get to one of the big reasons victims are now leaving Max. That being, someone was let into the evidence Discord and started leaking screenshots. These screenshots would show Max saying he wanted to sue Mutahar for $1 million because he wouldn't support Max and is, and I quote, extremely rich. Nick would show a clip of Mutahar explaining that Max even saying that not only would ruin any lawsuit, but that it's also personally fucked him up since he and Max were friends at one point. This would also cause many of the girls on the Discord to tell Max that this isn't what they want and it's just unproductive and malicious. Nick would then show a screenshot of Spencer agreeing that Muta should be sued. He would claim that it looks like Spencer's just after the money, and while some of the other victims agree with her and Max, most want to get their abuser convicted. After the Discord would get leaks, outtakes from the videos would get leaked.
I could literally cancel you, Charlie. I could literally cancel you. And I choose not to. It's true, though. It's the truth. Like, I'm the friggin' p***o hunter. Like...
And isn't that fucking insane? Like, he's on a power trip thinking he can take down Charlie because he didn't answer quick enough. So you're just gonna go out and call him a predator? Like, I know this isn't the first time Max has done something like this, but wasn't Charlie like one of your friends, Max? Why would you start spreading false allegations because he didn't answer your text quick enough? Nick would then get to something that got left out of the previous video, that being Max's Mega account being deleted. The Mega folder that got his account taken down allegedly had videos of predators touching themselves to Max saying he was a 14-year-old girl, but his account was deleted for having CSAM material on it. Nick points out that CSAM material is detected through hashes that are Nick points out that CSAM material is detected through hashes that are already on file as CSAM material, then shows a clip of Mutahar explaining it, and I'm also going to show you that because I don't understand any of it.
Those hash files are then checked against other hashes of images, objects that you have on your local device or wherever you store online continuously, and if a hash gets tripped, which there could be false positives, but generally there aren't, they all check hashes, okay? Literally fingerprints within picture files. So I decided to go to Mega's transparency, and I wanted to see exactly how they identify objectionable content. When an account gets hit, they can appeal, but the appeals are so limited that I'm not joking, in certain quarters, they have literally allowed 0 appeals to go through. In fact, their highest appeals were 10 appeals, and this is obviously thousands of accounts being taken down. Very, very few accounts ever get reinstated.
Nick would point out that videos of predators wouldn't get the account taken down since those videos wouldn't trigger those CSAM hashes. He would then show a clip of Max claiming that he wasn't even the one running the Mega account and that he never saw the email that specified what got the account taken down. Nick would use this to point out that Max is clearly lying because if he didn't have access to the email and can't get a hold of the person who ran the account, then he clearly couldn't know what got it taken down. Nick would then have Nexpo in the video to tell a story about a brony video Max wanted to make.
Okay, to start things off, I'd like to just clear the air and say that I've seen a lot of whispers about the My Little Pony video. So the My Little Pony project was something that Max approached me about pretty early on in our friendship, back when he was doing like the gaming mystery video phase of his channel. Essentially, it all boiled down to Max was going to fabricate a mystery surrounding the My Little Pony community and blow the whole top off of it and expose, I guess, whatever story he was going to cook up. I didn't know too much about the project, but he did want me to collab in it with him, but he did end up scrapping it at some point, so it ended up falling to the back burner.
Now, this clip really shows how malicious Max has been with his previous investigations. On top of showing we really can't believe any of them since he was clearly always willing to fabricate evidence. Nick would then bring up one of Max's previous videos being how this little girl made $150 billion a year. In this video, Max would recreate the essay of a child and defend it, saying that the girl was actually an AGI, or artificial general intelligence. Nick would point out that while the YouTube version is censored, Max has posted the uncensored version of the video on his Patreon for everyone to see. Nick would then point out that in the Puppy Stomp video, Max would make a vague call to action to harm the people in his video, but in the Patreon version, that call to action is played over a prison stabbing. Now, I'm not going to defend any animal abusers here, but you cannot be making calls to action to harm someone in an investigation and just need to send the evidence to the authorities to help get them arrested. Nick would then show Max claiming that part of silencing all survivors would be showing people how they can run their own investigations the right way, but he's shown that he can't do that himself anyways. As Nick very elegantly puts it, Max doesn't get real evidence, just...
In your previous investigations, what have you done to ensure that the evidence you're passing over to police is sufficient to get prosecution, and what precautions do you take to make sure it's usable in a court of law?
None! They just beat off to him!
Nick would then loop back to the Magnetar situation to emphasize that while Max believes that accusations are evidence, when the accusations are against him, he claims they can't be believed because they were in a group chat. But Max, sorry to tell you, but the evidence Discord you have with all the victims is the same thing as their group chat. Nick would then move on to a situation the public had no idea about, but was kept behind the scenes. Night Docs, or Jim as we're going to call him, was a horror YouTuber in the same realm as Nexpo and Mudahar, and Max had successfully ruined him. For a long time, Jim was on Max's side with his investigations and YouTube campaigns, even debating Nick at one point about Max's pick a side campaign. Max would go on to make accusations against Jim, from being a creep and weirdo to women, to he was a neglectful father, to claiming he was a PDF. Jim would point out that Max made none of these claims public, but was going to Jim's friends like Nexpo and Mudahar with them. Jim would bring up that he was letting Max live with him rent-free for months. Max would make these claims that Jim wouldn't get up in the morning, so Max had to feed the kids, which Jim claims wasn't true, and that even if Max did have to feed them on occasion, he was living there for free, so it'd be the least he could do. Jim would claim that Max had never come to him to confront him on these behaviors, just went to their friends to ruin his career. He would claim to only know what Max had claimed because Nexpo would end up telling Jim what Max had been saying during a trip. Nick would then show Nexpo's testimony on what Max was claiming about Jim. Nexpo would say that Max claimed Jim was a PDF creep, starting by saying Jim was talking to a minor inappropriately, but the person in question ended up actually being 25, but the story kept getting brought up in relation to Jim being a PDF before the truth came out. He would also claim that he and Jim went to dinner and Jim would keep hitting on the waitress, making the meal tense. Max would use these stories to convince everyone that Jim is a bad person they need to cut off, and it worked for the last 2 years. Nexpo would go on to publicly apologize to Jim for believing Max without looking into the accusations himself. While Max never confronted Jim on these accusations, Mudahar would. Muda claims that through the friend group, he would hear stories about Jim not being a good dad, sleeping in every day, and causing Max to have to feed his kids. Muda would also claim to have heard the story that originated with Max claiming Jim had exposed himself to a minor on a video call. He would go on to confront Jim about this, and even though Jim denied it and Muda had no evidence, he decided to cut ties with Jim just in case. Nick would go on to point out that the story makes no sense, starting with why Max wouldn't make it public if he knew it to be true. Nick would claim that if this was true, it is absolutely something that should have been made public, especially given Max was a self-proclaimed predator hunter. Nick would then show another clip of Jim, this time talking about the mental state he was left in after the accusations. Jim would claim that after he lost all of his friends, he completely fell off and quit YouTube. He would say,
Absolutely, it impacted my career. I completely fell off. I ended up hospitalized. Like I genuinely ended up hospitalized. I came within hours of doing something very permanent and very stupid. It was the last straw, and essentially on top of a period of about 3 or 4 years of one traumatic incident after another of things that were out of my control.
Nick would point out that Max had no evidence for anything he had accused Jim of, and that his reputation and undeserved credibility made it so he could accuse anyone of anything and just be believed. Nick would get to his conclusion saying he never wanted to make these videos, but Max hounded the community into covering his investigations. He claims that if Max hadn't continued pushing for everyone to cover his investigations, he'd still be pushing his grift with no major pushback. But Max needed the attention, so that was never an option. Nick would go on to say that the general public is now aware that Max has never caught predators, and some people believe the only way for Max to be redeemed is if he catches Camden. However, that's no longer an option, as most of the girls are now working with Mudahar, and Turkey Tom was working on a video about Camden that's up on his channel, so go watch it. Max is now no longer in control of the case, and honestly, that's for the best. Nick would end the video, but that's not quite where we're done. See, Max had stopped making videos, and everyone thought we were done with the whole MamaMax situation, but Max had actually gone to work with a couple charities that help children that were abused. Max joined a group called Casa of El Paso, CASA being an acronym for Court Appointed Special Advocates, directly showing Max hadn't taken anything from the previous situation. He doesn't seem to understand he cannot be anywhere near a situation that could involve victims, as he's shown before that he can't be trusted to responsibly take care of these issues. People will get a hold of the charity and inform them on Max's past when it comes to these kinds of situations, and he was fired shortly after. And as much as I'd love to say that's the end of it, it's not. On August 31st, 2024, Max would post a video to his channel titled Speaking Up. In this video, he would open saying he just wants to talk and that it may take decades for the Camden story to fully come out, but he would like to start uploading again. And Max, nobody else wants to see you posting again. You've ruined your credibility and reputation, so we can't trust a word that comes out of your mouth ever again. He would try to blame his cancellation on a case of
mass psychosis is very real, and I'm sure you all can pretty much feel it at this point.
Max, it wasn't mass psychosis that ended your career. It was you refusing to show any evidence for your accusations and fabricating evidence for your videos. He would claim that his silence hasn't been an admission of guilt and that he's not how he's been painted. He says he's not doing these videos for money or clout, especially since he has lost all of that. He claims to still be doing this because it's important work and he won't stop. Max would then go back to one of his old rants talking about children being abused and claims reporting to the authorities is only the first step in these cases. Max would claim that his mission is to rebuild the justice system to ensure more abused children get justice. And Max, you're not going to be able to reconstruct the justice system we have. We are all aware that's not the best and needs to be reformed, but that's not something we can do as civilians. We're not going to be able to just reset the system so it works how you want it to, and that's for the best given you tend to just like running with allegations and no proof. Max would claim that cybercrimes against children are rising and technology will destroy us if we don't stop it. He would say that the people with a platform have to bring attention to what's been going on and raise up the victims, then claims he'll see us all soon and the video ends. And I get where he's coming from to some extent, but you can't expect everyone who's gotten attention on this platform to bend to your will and talk about what you want. Everyone can agree that children being harmed is horrific and would love for it to stop, but most people don't have the power to do anything about it. And look at that, we're finally at the end. Now, what can we learn from this? Well, first, if you're going to be running these kinds of investigations, you have to have the authorities looped in to make sure your evidence can be used. Second, it shouldn't be hard, but Max had a real issue with it. Don't fabricate evidence to make your story seem bigger than it is. And finally, if you're going to farm clout from victim stories of abuse, you deserve everything coming to you.